people didn't listen to the last episode, they should go back and listen to it. You guys did such a great job of including everyone in this destination wedding. And we didn't want to add any hardship. Like, we didn't want you to have to add people, or we didn't want you to have to, add us to things and pay extra money. Didn't want you to have to put out anything out of pocket. Welcome to the Crossing It Off podcast, where each episode we share the stories of individuals that are living out their bucket/life goal lists. I am your host, Roger Williams, and through hearing our guests' adventures, my goal is that you will find encouragement and empowerment to add and cross items off of your list.
Hello and welcome to the show. We are your special guest hosts for this episode. I am Dayton Wiseman.
And I am Hallie Wiseman. We are excited to welcome our super special guest today, Roger Williams. You may know Roger as a host of the Crossing It Off podcast.
And he is a world explorer, father, and always tries to do no harm.
Roger, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here and doing this. I really appreciate it. This is my first cliffhanger episodes, so it should be exciting and fun. I appreciate you doing this.
Of course.
We're excited as well. So let's get into the meat of it. What did you cross off your list?
I crossed off crashing a wedding, and specifically, I crashed your all's wedding.
Okay, so let's ask, why did you decide that you wanted to put crashing a wedding on your bucket list in the first place?
So I'm a very, as you two know, I'm a very social person. I don't have any problem meeting new people. And I have two friends that I've been friends with for well over 35 years. We try to get together every once in a while. And it just seems like every time we get together, there seems to be some mischief that goes on. And one of the last times we got together, we kind of crashed or attempted to crash a high school class reunion, which was interesting and fun. And then after seeing the Wedding Crashers movie, I'm like, I could do that. That wouldn't be too hard. I'd like to at least attempt it.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. So how would you define crossing off, crashing a wedding?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's different for everybody, right? It's most bucket list items are. For me, I wanted to make sure I crashed a wedding where, one, I could be successful doing it, and two, I knew it wouldn't be upsetting to the people that I did it with.
Always do no harm.
Always
right?
do no harm.
Do no harm, exactly. And so for me, it was just going to a wedding that I was not invited to. So that was the key for me of saying, okay, I can cross this off my list because I was not invited to this wedding.
To be fair, you said that you were not able to go. So okay. I would like to frankly put that in here. He lied a little bit, but yes, we did not expect Roger to come.
Yeah. So ask me the how, right? And I'll start talking about that. Because that was intentional.
It was intentional. So, okay. So that's why you decided ours would be the one that you crashed, just because you just knew that we weren't going to get mad.
Yeah, part of it. I mean, as you said, we last week on the episode, we walked some of the Camino together, probably about 10, 12 days, I think. And I don't know, it was like the third or fourth night that after we had met that we were sitting at dinner or lunch or something, and we started talking about the wedding. And you all were talking about how it was a small gathering, not a lot of people. And the other people around us and the friends that we were with, we all joked about, oh, we're going to crash your wedding. And you all seemed to think that was the funniest thing in the world if that were to happen, if we all kind of showed up at this expensive destination wedding. And so, it was kind of like a dinner joke. It was fine. Everybody was laughing and whatnot. And then you all kind of moved forward on the Camino at a quicker pace. I kind of slowed down for a day to meet my partner so that she could walk the last 5 days with me. And so you finished the Camino with all those friends. And what I heard was that the night that you all finished, you were celebrating your completion of the 790 kilometer trek, and that invitations were passed out or verbalized for folks to come, and I wasn't there to receive mine. I am sure that, is that accurate or is that not accurate?
I may or may not have been drunk, so I I don't know exactly what happened. That sounds like something that I would do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I think I heard that like a month and a half after we were done with the Camino.
huh.
And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, it's on. I'm crashing this wedding. I knew that I would have gotten invited. I've been there, but that was like even more impetus for me to be like, this is the one. I'm doing this. I'm making this happen. So
I love it.
that's how it became your all's wedding.
Great.
Oh, that's awesome. So I guess the thing that we are most curious about, and we haven't gotten any spoilers yet, so we're going to be learning along with all your listeners. How did you do it? What was the master plan? Let's walk through the details.
Yeah. So the first and foremost, as Hallie mentioned earlier, is that I had to lie to her. I typically talk to her on social media more than I talk to you, Dayton, and so I knew I had to convince her that I wasn't available. That even if you all wanted to ask me, that it would. So I had been planning on doing some traveling during that same time period and changed my plans to include crashing your wedding. So I just went with the story that I was going to be in Europe, and that I was really looking forward to my European trip. And multiple times Hallie would post and things about the upcoming wedding, and I'd be like, oh, that's so awesome, I'm so excited for you guys, I wish I could be there, blah 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 blah. So I went out of my way to make sure that you all thought that I was not available.
Okay, so step one in the process is a lot of lying.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the harder stuff came when we actually got down to Costa Rica, because the place where you all got married and had your reception and stuff is a very nice hotel with what I would preface with a lot of security. Right, there's a guard at the gate, there's somebody there when you park, there's somebody there when you walk through the door, and so it's not like you can't just like walk up to this. It's not like you're at.
I'll say this for the listeners, because they're probably wondering what the name of the hotel is.
Mhm.
It's Springs Resort in Arenal, if you want to look it up. It's where if anyone watches The Bachelor, Pilot Pete hits his head on a wine glass and cracks his head open on the back of a golf cart.
Yeah, so super nice place. And so the first thing that we did, my partner Ruth, who joined us for this, she was in charge of all of our activities for the week. So she was the one that I guess the hotel that you had this at, they have a lot of activities, and they have all these hot springs that you can go to. And when the season is slow and they're not full for the hotels, they actually sell day passes for people that aren't staying there to actually come and be able to do the things at the resort. So she set that up. We got a 2-day pass to go to the resort. This is Tuesday. We got there on Monday. This is Tuesday and Wednesday. I think you all were still in Tamarindo with your wedding party. And I basically just, again, started using my relationship skills that my dad had taught me. And, we went in because we had a day pass, but immediately when I got there, I started making friends with the bellhops and making friends with the valets, and just trying to talk to as many people as I could. And said, I have friends that are having a wedding here this weekend. They're like, oh yeah, we know that wedding, blah blah blah. And so and after the second day when we got there, I actually had to explain, okay, I'm not invited, but I'm invited, and then we want to crash this. And so nobody gave us like definitive answers of like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do this with you. So I wasn't quite sure after that. I mean, I knew people's names, and I knew I could maybe call in some favors. So
that was cool hearing about how you got to make friends with some of the people there, because they were all really friendly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just assumed it was because we were paying a ton of money that they were so friendly. So it's kind of nice to know that even though you weren't staying there, they were still friendly to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We did the tubing on Wednesday, and those guys were just great.
Yeah.
And we talked to them, and we're like, this is why we're here. And I was telling them about crashing the wedding, and like, you can't tell them if you're going to be working on Friday. And they were just so nice. And it was just Ruth and I, because it was like the last trip of the day or something.
Yeah.
And so it was just Ruth and I doing it with these two guys. And they were just super nice, super kind, and answered all of our questions. And yeah, it was Yeah, everybody there I thought was very genuine and kind.
Yeah,
For
Costa
sure.
Rica was just full of people like that. I think that was one of the most pleasant surprises, just how kind and nice everyone really was, and generous.
Yeah, that was up till Wednesday.
So
Thursday.
two then would be to try to make your way in, get to know the people that can kick you out, and make friends.
That's right. That's right. And then so we did some other stuff. Thursday was the night of your welcome party for all your guests and folks. And we almost crashed that. But part of the going back to the original thing, part of it for me was I didn't want to put you all in a position because you were doing so much, so many activities. People didn't listen to the last episode. They should go back and listen to it. You guys did such a great job of including everyone in this destination wedding. And we didn't want to add any hardship. Like we didn't want you to have to add people, or we didn't want you to have to, add us to things and pay extra money. Didn't want you to have to put out anything out of pocket. Wanted to make sure that it was all set. The funniest thing is that we, like Dayton said, we had some other friends from the Camino that were there attending the wedding, and they all knew that we were there, that I was there, that I was going to attempt to do this. There were differing opinions on whether I should or not in that group. And there were definitely people that felt like they may not be able to hold it in, the secret. So I do a lot of coaching on that. We actually had them all over for dinner on the Friday before the wedding. And I cooked them a traditional Costa Rican meal, and we had a really good time. It was nice. Enjoyed. Wish you two had been there. That would have been even more fun. But
Sounds really nice.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good. Probably not as good as the meal you guys were having, but yeah, it was a fun time. And then the big day happened. And the Saturday was the wedding, and I felt pretty confident that we had kept it under wraps. Two of our friends that were there for the wedding were staying in an Airbnb with like 5 or 6 people or 7 people. I don't even know how many people are in it, but so they asked if they could come over to our place and get ready. I said, sure, no problem, come over. And then they asked if I could drive them to the wedding. It's like, oh, this may be scary. Because I didn't want to
close the sun there, Roger.
Yes, actually, as the story goes, you'll find out how close I got. We got in, I went to the gate. They said, I'm dropping people off for this wedding. They're like, okay, fine, no problem. It's over here at this building. And so, having been there a couple of days earlier, I kind of knew where it was. But right as we came up to turning the corner around this bamboo, I saw you two standing out front. I think you were doing either first looks or you were doing some pictures or something, but you were out front of that building where the wedding was. So I like immediately stopped and put the car in reverse. I'm like, you got to get out. You got to get out here. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they're right there. Hallie and Dayton are right there. You need to get out of the car and walk. And so they were like, okay. So they got out of the car. They walked around the bush, but I knew that I still waited in the car for a couple of minutes because I knew as soon as they turned around, you would see them and look right over there and then see me in the car. So I'm like,
Kylie and Parker?
Yeah, Kylie and Parker.
I remember seeing them, right? Like those were the first people we saw.
Yeah, I remember seeing them and even waving. I didn't even notice who was driving the car. I just remember them getting out.
Yeah. Yeah. So they almost blew it for me. So I waited a couple minutes, drove by, and then like I had a hat on and kind of ducked my head, turned my head towards you so you couldn't see my face, and just drove by just in case. So I was concerned maybe you'd see me then. But that worked out, and went back, and Ruth and I got together. The biggest thing was I knew Hallie was very, very A-type and had everything down to the button, like timing wise. And so I knew that 8:30 would be the prime moment to show up.
So how did you know about 8:30? Did you have like a copy of our?
I asked one of our friends to let me know the timing schedule, and so I knew that you all be done with dinner, you'd be done with the ceremony, you'd be done with all the fancy speeches, because I didn't want to show up and if it was going to go bad, I didn't want it to go bad during one of those times. And if it was going to go good, I didn't want to take away from anything else that you were doing.
Step 3 is know your timing.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Know your timing. So Ruth and I got ready and went out and had dinner. Nice dinner with ourselves. And then we drove over to the hotel. Knowing the gatekeeper, he didn't care. He just let us back in. And then we pulled up to the valet. I'm like, hey man, remember me? He's like, oh yeah, Roger. Yeah, no problem. What's going on? And I'm like, well, we're trying to, and people need to understand is that where you had the wedding and where you had the reception, there's like a 300-meter drop in difference.
Yes, we had to bus everyone down in a big school bus.
Right. And so, and it's so steep that they can't even take golf carts down there.
Yeah.
So we had to get down to this location. The bus that took everybody else was already gone. And so I drove up and he's like, I'm like, hey man, is there any way we can get down to the wedding? Blah, 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 blah. And he was like, yeah, let me check. And so he went back and asked and came back and said, yeah, if you'll let me drive you down and then drive your car back up here and you ride back in the bus, it's no problem.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Boom. Because you made friends with all the guards, so
yeah,
perfectly.
Yeah, it was. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much. And we got down there around right at 8:30. You guys were all done with speeches and dinner and everything, and it was almost time for the first dance. And got to walk up, and I don't remember if you guys remember what I said, but I said, "Is it too late for me to object?" Was what came out of my mouth. So yeah, and
adrenaline.
Yeah.
That was just such a great surprise. Our whole wedding had been surprise, and then seeing you there, it was just incredible. And being able to meet Ruth, it was just great.
Yeah, Bob Ross, just a bunch of happy little surprises all over the place.
Well, I'm glad that this added to that for sure.
It really did. Yeah, it was amazing.
So step 1 was lie. Step 2 is make your friends / plan your thing. Step 3 was what? I said that just before.
Get to know the staff.
Yeah, that was step 2.
Make friends.
Yeah, make friends. Yeah.
Know your timing, right?
Yeah, know your timing.
And then I guess step 4 is be able to improvise because you had to figure out how to get it there.
Yeah.
So
that's how you do it, folks. Now you know step-by-step directions.
There you go. And it was just so nice to your all's reactions were just like perfect. We have a video of it, so it's so much fun to go back and watch. Hallie, just absolutely screaming at the top of her lungs, excited and hugging me, and then Dayton behind her with this, totally dumbified look on his face, like, oh my God, what is going on here? How did you get here?
Video, Roger. Why are you holding out? I want to see
I think it's on Instagram. I think. So yeah, and then so then there were lots of other stories because nobody, besides the 5 or 6 people that were, Camino friends of all of ours, nobody else knew who I was or why I was there.
Yeah.
And so the funniest thing that happened with that was I had gone over to the table where your guest book was, and I started signing it, and Dayton's parents walked up and started talking to me because they obviously like, who is this person? What is going on here? And so we were talking, and it was a good conversation. And then one of the attendants for the wedding, one of the from the hotel, came over and asked me, she said, I know you just got here and you're running late. Do you want us to get you plates? And Dayton ran over and was like, they're with us. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's like, bro, I got this, man. It's no worries, man. I got this. So it was super cute. So yeah, so we had a wonderful time. It brought me great joy to do it, and I'm glad that you all thought it was a good thing too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so what was like the one big thing that you got out of it, and how did it make you feel?
Oh, I mean, I hope people listen to the last episode and listen to your guys' story, because I knew what you were doing, and I knew what the schedule of the wedding was and all the events and all those things, but you could feel the community that you had built over a week. It was really surprising to me to watch even just the friends of ours from the Camino, like already knew people and we're talking to people and, having, smiling and laughing and drinking and, having a good time. I'm like, how do you know? Oh yeah, you've known them for like 3 or 4 days now. and that was just really, really cool to walk in on, seeing that after it had transpired and worked like really well.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah, that really does. That I mean, as you said, that was in the last podcast, but that was definitely a big goal of ours, is to have that sense of community. So
yeah, no, I completely felt it, and I people were inquisitive, but no one's like, "Who are you? Get out of here!" Everybody was like excited and like, "Oh my gosh, can't believe you crashed this wedding!" And it was just like, I think I think the setup for what you guys did like helped my experience, because people weren't like, "Who is this crazy person?" Right? It's like, "Oh yeah, it's just somebody else," in the mix.
Awesome.
all right. So you're known for crossing things off. It's, the next question, and all the inquiring minds want to know, what's next? What are you doing?
I've got a couple of things in progress. We already talked about one of them. Our last episode, we talked about one of crossing off all 50 states. I'm attempting to do that this year. Hopefully, get to Alaska with some friends, maybe in August or September, to get all that finished. I'm in the process of writing a book. I'm 40,000 words in. So I've got probably another 25,000 to go, I think. And I'm trying to write this book, which I'm looking forward to getting out there and making happen. And yeah, just constantly, I think one of the things that I learned, I just got back from a 3-month trip through Europe and actually Costa Rica and some Israel and some other places. And I think what I really learned was when I do things intentionally like this, when I intentionally thinking about crossing things off my bucket list, all these other things seem to like pop up. And so I was in Matera, Italy, for a month, and the first couple of days I'm walking around the city, and I just run across these Salvador Dali sculptures. Just there's 6 of them sitting around the city, and it's just like I never would have thought, especially being Italy, not Spain, but being Italy, that I would see Salvador Dali sculptures all over the place. And so just being more intentional about, taking in what's around me, has been a huge benefit as I travel around and as I look at crossing other things off my list. I'm going to get a lot more out of it than I think I would have, if I stick to the schedule or stick to an itinerary. So I'm excited that that's going on as far as my mindset goes.
Thanks, Roger. You're very inspirational for all of us. It's been fun watching you do all this, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to watching what you're going to do next. And with that, it was really great having you on your show.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I do appreciate you all doing this. If folks want to find out more about the show and about me and what I'm doing, they can go to crossingitoffpodcast.com, and you can get all the information there and all my socials and everything. So yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Of course, anytime, Roger.
As a reminder to our listeners, in this episode's show notes, you will find links to learn more about this week's guest and information on how you can cross this item off of your list. You can follow my adventures of crossing items off my bucket list on Instagram and Facebook, and as always, new episodes of this podcast are available to stream every Friday morning. We will meet you here next week, and until then, keep living out your list.